Hey, guys, it's Amber
And Kristen.
with Long Branch Talks, and we have Josh Martin with Pauley Hollow Distillery, LLC, with us today. If we bring him on out. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Doing good, guys. How are you?
Good. So Pauley Hollow is in eastern southeastern Kentucky, which is also around about where I'm from. I'm from Harlan. Pauley Hollow is in Pike County, Pikeville to be exact. And Josh is the owner of Pauley Hollow Distillery. They do bourbon and moonshine. He was just telling us they have a brandy line now. So tell us a little bit about the distillery, Josh.
We started in 2016, and we got all of our stuff in, and we started doing just a straight moonshine. And then we moved up and started doing bourbon, and then we also do uh, a shoot a brandy that we do with all local apples. It's all Eastern Kentucky apples. It all come. We picked apples out of people's yards. We picked apples on mountainsides and everything when we made a 5-year-old apple brandy. We do our bourbons. The minimum age we do on our bourbons is 4 years, but most of them are 4.5 to 5 years. We also do a rye whiskey that's named after great grandfather from down in Harlan in that area in Tazewell, Tennessee. It's called Poppy Collins Rye, and we finish it in rum cask barrels. And then we also do a wheated bourbon that we finish in the apple brandy barrels when we get done with that. And we're also working on a prohibition style blackstrap molasses rum that we're doing. We kind of do everything old school. We do it all by hand. It's just me and my wife that does it, and it's been an adventure. We've really enjoyed it.
Now, you were just talking about something earlier. You were saying that the Hatfield and McCoy trail, when they do the trail, they're able to stop by and do a tasting or
Yep,
tour.
they can stop by and do a tasting. We also do a moonshine specialty for this area. We have a friend, and it's kind of funny. He is a Hatfield, but he bought the land where the McCoys had their homestead at. So his name's Bob Scott, and but there's a well still left on the property, and they had the pickers guys come in from the History Channel and everything and mark, and they still found the bullets in the trees and everything from the massacre happened. But we'll go up once and twice a year and get the water out of the well, and then we'll make a 50% corn and a 49% rye bourbon out of it. And we call it Fuel the Feud because everybody knows that moonshine fuels some fights.
Mm-hmm.
They were all moonshiners, and everybody tries to say that the feud got started by a pig. It got started by a woman and liquor.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
I am part of the McCoy's side.
Yep.
And so when my mom went back and was tracing our bloodline and stuff, my grandma was the one who was telling us, and we actually found it to where we crossed over into the Hatfields, which of course everybody did. I mean, the Hatfields and the McCoys ended up marrying into each other's family. But my grandmother at that point shut it down, and she was like, "No, I'm not having it. Like, no, you are not part of the Hatfields." No.
Well, I'd say when I was growing up and I was a teenager, the meanest girl I ever dated was a Hatfield. So hopefully she's not watching.
That would be funny. It'd be like Family Feud on Long Branch Talk. We aren't talking about moonshine no more, buddy. We'll be spilling the tea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique area. I mean, we have a lot of mountains, riding trails. There's a huge Airbnb and population they put in with a lot of like chalets and stuff and everything. And we get a lot of traffic from basically New England, like Vermont, New York, and those areas, and they come down and they ride. And
that's just crazy to me. I guess just from being from the area that
in the wintertime they get an average. I think. I mean, don't know if it's sure, but it's about 7,000 people a month that they get in the wintertime on that trail.
Oh, wow.
And every town they can drive down into and basically go into a restaurant, have a cheeseburger and a beer, and drive right back up on the trail again. And then they have different cabins on the trails, and they come up here, and of course everybody come up north. When they come to the south, the first thing they want is a bottle of moonshine to take back. And so
this is something that I've always found interesting, but it's also just it still just mind boggles me because, again, I'm from Harlan, and Pike County used to be a dry county too, correct?
Right.
Well, and Harlan was dry, and of course, I moved from a dry county to the bourbon capital of the world. That was a huge culture shock. So when did Pike County become wet?
This is going to crack you up, okay? Pike County's still dry. All right. The town is wet of Pikeville. Okay. Well, they have a thing that they put in where you can vote your zip code wet. So we had a vote, not this year, but last year, just to vote our zip code wet, and it passed, and it's only our property. So it's where your grandparents' property was up there, and where our house is, the distillery is. And if you walk 15 feet out in the road on the asphalt, you're in a dry part of the county.
Oh, wow.
So if you're on our property,
it only takes 14 and a half foot.
Yeah, that's
14 and a half steps.
It has to be 15. It's like 15 feet, I think, out from that. It's what the rule is. And then they're also putting another distillery in Aflax. I don't know if you remember Aflax or not. And it's on the Tug River, and it's going to be huge. It's a $38 million distillery. It'll be like one of the big distilleries like you have in Bardstown, like 1792 or Willett. It's going to be really big, and it's going to have a hotel, resort, outdoor theater, and everything. And the unique thing is they're storing their barrels underground in coal mines, so you'll be able to go underground and see the barrels underground.
That'll be cool.
We're doing their liquor for them right now while they're building their facilities, and we did all their recipes and everything for them. But it's a really, really going to be a really unique thing, and it's going to bring it, more activities to this area. Because if you go to one distillery, you're going to want to go to another one.
Yeah, well, and that's what they do around here. We were on the Bourbon Trail, and so they just distillery hop. And Kristen was talking about just the other day because they actually have
there is some kind of a tour bus. It's a bourbon tour bus that takes you around to the different distilleries, but we have yet to find it. And then the one tour we could find was like outrageously priced for two people that don't really drink bourbon. And we're like, we're not really going to be drinking your bourbon. We just want to advertise you and learn about like your company.
So
right. There's one thing about it. You won't get drunk when you go to a bourbon facility. They give you enough to taste. So we always pre-drink in the parking lot before we go in.
We probably should have. No, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have to pre-drink. We actually had a shot of your moonshine at the Halloween party, and she was like, "Here, take this," and I'm like, "What is it?" And I'm not one of them people that takes a straight shot. Like I can, but I just don't. And I took a shot of that, and I was like, horrible idea. Like in the next hour, I'm going to be blacked out. Like there's no more coming back from this.
Did you feel your neck get a little red on the back of it?
It was pretty rough.
Yeah. It makes
started cleaning her whole bar after that. Let's just put it that way.
Look, it was dirty. Okay. She's like moonshine for Kristen every time she comes down.
Yeah, we have a list of cocktails on our website. We do a lot of different ones. We do we do a blackberry lemonade with it.
Is that the one that's on that's actually on the website, the picture of it? Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen that and I said that looks really good.
Yeah, blackberry lemonade is very, very popular. We do it. We do a strawberry margarita with it, and then the red label, the Fuel the Few, the one it's the Hatfield McCoy one. It's really high in rye, and so it's spicy, and so people make killer Bloody Marys out of them.
That's what I want to get a hold of. We have the moonshine, and I think we carry one of the bourbons, but it's the Fuel the Few that I want to get a hold of to have in the bar. I think that would go over really good in our bar. Yeah,
our distributors are not that far from Bardstown. They're in Simpsonville. So we take all of our stuff up there. It's Heritage Wine and Spirits. So they usually have it. And then Total Wine carries a lot of our stuff. But the Fuel the Few, basically most of it stays in Pikeville because that's where the big market of it is. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the Fuel to Few, the Hat from McCoy doesn't get spread through the state because there's so many people who buy it here when they come in to visit for the trail.
Yeah. Oh
Which is
yeah, I
neat,
bet that's
though.
yeah. I think that's probably very popular for you all, especially where you're at in with the trail. Now I know the distillery is Pauley Hollow Distillery,
Right.
but and I know I'm remembering this correctly because you actually the distillery sits on what used to be my grandparents' property.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
now that's in Forest Hills, correct?
Yeah. It's Camp Branch, Forest
Yes.
Hills. And the
Uh-huh.
reason why we did that for is Pauley Hollow is really, really narrow. I mean, and there was not a lot of land up there, and it would have been a real pain to put it up there. But that's where the family on my mom's side started, you know, there where they stayed at and everything. And so and we wanted to honor the family because the place we have it on the property up here was owned by the Pauleys too. And what we basically do is we try to name our liquors after people in our family on both sides. My last name's Martin, so we did the one on that side, and then we did Robert's Reserve was my grandfather, which lived right next door to your grandparents. They were side by side. We
Uh-huh.
did that, the Robert's Reserve for them, and then my wife, we did one for her. Her grandfather, we named it after their farm. So we basically try to honor people in our family through the names on the bottles. And but we put it up here because we have a well actually up here. It's 100 and it's 1920, I think, is when they settled it. So it's probably a 102, 103-year-old well, and it's hand dug and it's lined with sandstone all the way down. And it's like the old school well where you can drop the bucket in it and get water and everything out of it.
I'm
And
pretty sure I remember that well because I'm almost positive my grandparents had a well house that sat there.
there was the well there.
Uh-huh.
The well is actually underneath one of the barrel houses right now. And in the wintertime, that barrel house, that floor does not ever get cold because the head of the well is right underneath. And I mean, it gets a little bit cold, but not as cold as the other ones do. But there was a well right there where I don't know if you remember, you had to walk behind your grandparents' house, and that's where they had their laundry room at.
Mhm.
It's out back, and they had a wellhead actually in that laundry room where they drew water for the wash machines and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember that building being back there. We
Yeah,
weren't never allowed to play in there, but we would sneak in there as kids, and always get caught and always get in trouble because the house wasn't that big, and my grandma knew everything that we did. So
now it's full of liquor. So she probably wouldn't be happy with me for that.
I
She
guarantee it
probably
not.
wouldn't let you play in there now either.
So here's a little backstory about this, which is why I wanted you all on the show to begin with. Of course, we talk bars, bikes, and booze, and anything in between. But with you all being from Eastern Kentucky, my grandparents were devout Christians,
Hmm.
and I mean they were at church every time the doors opened. They were at church. So a couple of years ago, it was several years ago actually, my uncle had passed away and we had gone back. We'd taken my mom back to Pike County for his funeral. So she said that she wanted to ride up to where she grew up to my grandparents' old place. We rode up there to find you all. And my mom about died because she was like, oh my gosh, it's a distillery. They're making liquor here.
That's what I was just telling my dad. I was like, I said everybody was happy, but there was one lady. I don't think she was happy at all about what we turned it into. And
Oh, it tickled me and my sisters to death. We were so excited about it. And mom was like, I can't believe this is going on.
now, I'll tell you a funny story. We were tearing the house down, and we basically took a loader to tear it down with. And when we were tearing it down, I pulled out one of the window sills, and when I did, I heard clinging in the window sill. So we got out, and we found empty bottles of bourbon that were hid in the window sill in the
Oh,
house.
wow.
So
Well,
there was somebody drinking a little bourbon in there.
I guarantee you it's probably either my grandfather years ago or my uncle. My uncle lived there for a little while too with him, and he actually lived right next door after he moved out of their actual house. So he didn't move very far from them at all.
Well, one of the bottles was dated 1939.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
it was your papa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that,
yeah.
it was the day 1939. It was, and they were Jim Beam bottles, and I think that's about basically the only bourbon you probably could get around here at that time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I cracked up because when I saw it and I found it, I told my mother, I was like, if Miss Miller was still alive and she knew I found that, I said she would have beat me with it and beat
Oh,
whoever
she would have.
put
Yeah.
it in there with it. Yeah, so it was
So
pretty funny.
this is like how my grandmother was. My grandfather was in it was in World War II, and so they kept journals and stuff while he was in the war. And he talked, I mean, every day, he wrote in his journal. This was before him and my grandmother had gotten together, mind you. So when he got out and they got married or whatever, he brought their journals with him. After they passed, my aunt and my mom was going through their stuff, of course, and found those journals. My grandmother had gone through and ripped out several pages of those journals that he kept because he had talked about other women in these journals. Now, mind you, they were not together during this
She
time.
didn't want to see it.
That's exactly. I mean, she told my mom because they didn't look at them, until he passed, but they knew they were there. But she
That,
told my aunt and my mom, and they didn't need to be in her house if he was going to speak of other women. Like that was just something.
that was the old school way of deleting sexting.
Yes.
It was
That-
easier back then.
Just rip it out and throw it away. It was done.
Burn
Yeah,
it.
it don't exist. Man.
Yeah,
We'll just throw it away. So, yeah, but we still got a lot of the old letters from my grandfather and from my great great grandfather. He was in World War One, and we still got a lot of their old letters, and we still got their uniforms too. We had them put in plexiglass, and we'll have them on display here. I think they said they haven't done in January. They got one done, and the other one they're working on right now, and so we'll still have their uniforms, and we got their pictures and everything, and their love letters and all that stuff. But yeah, it's crazy the stuff that they would write and everything else because they were so lonely.
Yeah.
When they were over there, so and homesick. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's I will say this: the property has definitely produced a lot of good liquor. Hopefully, that makes them happy.
Oh, I'm sure not. No.
We've been growing exponentially, and we're on a moonshine trail now. They have a trail that goes through eastern Kentucky, and it's like the bourbon trail that you guys have, and it starts in Lexington at the Barrel House in Lexington, and you can work your way to us.
Oh,
And so, and it's got a little passport book you can get, and it's got each distillery, and you get the stamps, and then at the end of the trail, after you get all your stamps, you get a free bottle.
Oh, wow.
So, and and it's really took off here in the last little bit too. The Moonshine Trail has, and a lot of people, they'll start with us and work their way to the gorge and stay at the gorge and then do Lexington and everything else. So, and I think they've added 2 more distilleries onto it in the past like 2 months. So, one's down south towards Harlan. It's called Southern Kentucky Distilling, I think it is. And then they added the Barrel House in Lexington onto it. So it's pretty unique little trail system.
I don't know about tasting. That would be a fun trip for us to go
We
on.
can taste its moonshine. It ain't
Yeah.
bourbon.
Oh, I'll make you a drink. You won't. Yeah, we had some people here that from Fox, and she was scared to death. She wasn't from Kentucky, and she'd heard all the bad myths about moonshine and everything else. And I made her a cocktail, and she was about 4 deep in them after she left here. So we'll make sure it's nice and fruity. I keep a couple of umbrellas in the back there. That way they can put them in the drink, and it makes everybody feel a little bit better.
I was going to say, it takes the little bit of burn out of it, just
Yeah.
add the umbrella.
Yeah, and I see the umbrella. They're like, oh, okay, I can deal with that.
I feel better now.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up because, there was a lot of moonshine stills, and I'm pretty sure several in my family had a moonshine still.
Oh, everybody did. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they had to feed their families. They were and everything, especially during the Depression and when the coal mines went down, everybody started moonshine. My dad's here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said back when you were growing up that in the neighborhoods in Harlan, you hear people at nighttime rattling the garbage cans trying to find stuff that they could ferment to make moonshine with. Like they'd find potato peels, they'd find old grapes, anything like that, anything they could use as a fermentable material to make moonshine. So it's been going on for years, and people,
Yeah, years and years, deep in the mountains too. I mean, I know that when we would go riding and stuff, there would be like old stills that, of course, they wasn't. Well, I don't know if they were still being used. They could have been, but you could tell, what was going on with them that they were making moonshine, and
yeah,
there were properties that we were told not to ever go on. Of course, growing up, we didn't know why until we got older, and that was why. I mean,
they all talk about the revenuers coming in, busting their steel up and everything. And my guy, it was my revenue. He walked into the distillery and he had bib overalls on. He was like 6'8", probably 300 pounds. He was from Clay County, Kentucky, and he said, "How y'all doing?" I said, "We're gonna get along just fine, buddy." And he said, "Well, I've never had the." He said, "I bust distilleries." He said, "I've never had a legal one." So he said, "We're gonna learn this together." And I said, "All right." And so he's been the greatest, ABC agent we've had so far, and it's not the way that it used to be. With the taxes and everything else, they've actually got it set up to where it's really business friendly for people to get in the business. And
yeah, everything's changed now. And now, are you the first distillery for moonshine in that area, like, or even in the surrounding areas around you?
I'm the first legal distillery in Pike County, and I'm the second legal distillery in Eastern Kentucky. There's actually one in Whitesburg that was in about 2 years before I did.
Oh, wow.
So, but that's in Letcher County. So it's right there on the Virginia border on 23, going on south that way. It's downtown Whitesburg heading towards Hazard.
Yeah.
So, and then
So I know you have the moonshine that Amber tricked me with that burned the crap out of me. But do you all have like a fruity moonshine?
no, we don't do it, but we just give you the recipes to do it.
You just give the recipes, because like I like apple pie moonshine and all those that kind of have that just fruity flavor to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
what do you all have? Boy, oh boy.
I got little cards that we can give you, like when you come, and it's got the recipe for the apple pie on it. It's really simple. It's just clove and cinnamon stick and apple juice. And you just warm it up a little bit, and then just cool down, and you just do a shot of the moonshine with that in it. And a lot of people will take the rim of the glass, and they'll rub an apple around that, and they'll dip it in cinnamon and sugar, and have it on the rim of the glass.
Okay. Well, I noticed on your website you all also had some stuff like that on there too. Because I mean, it's not that the moonshine's bad; it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's moonshine. And if you don't know anything about moonshine, it's supposed to burn. If
it
doesn't, you don't have good moonshine.
All moonshine's gonna burn.
If it doesn't burn, you have some not so good stuff.
Moonshine it was made in the day really not for flavor or for taste. It was just made to get you drunk, because they just wanted to make a product that would get you drunk because you couldn't get it anywhere. During Prohibition, it wasn't illegal to drink. It was just illegal to make it. So if you had a big inventory, and when they did Prohibition, you could serve drinks all you wanted. You just couldn't manufacture it anymore. And then they also left a few distilleries open, Four Roses. There was a couple more that stayed open, and they made medicinal liquor, and you had to go to the doctor, and we got one of the prescriptions back there, and they write you a prescription for whiskey, a pint of whiskey, 1 drink in the morning, 1 drink in the evening, and you was just like you had to go to the pharmacy and get the little bottles. So
I
bet people were sick all the time.
Yeah. And then you had people that would abuse it, and they make the stuff. And I guess you guys would know they called it bathtub gin, and they would use wood alcohol. They'd use anything that had alcohol to get in it, and people would get sick. They would go blind. They'd run alcohol through radiators that were made out of lead and everything. And that's how moonshine got its bad reputation that we're trying to get rid of. And it was all just about a money making scheme, is what it was.
Yeah, because it's completely different than what you actually do.
Yeah. The only difference between moonshine and bourbon is the moonshine is you put a little bit of cane sugar in it when you ferment it, and it ups the proof, so you get more bang for your buck, and you don't have to carry all that corn up the mountainside. So it was born out of laziness because they didn't want to carry all that corn up the mountainside.
I was about to say, there ain't nothing sweet about it.
Yeah, no.
Even.
And then with bourbon, all your alcohol is derived from grain. So they'll cook the grains at different temperatures and pull the starch out of it, and then they'll put a barley at the end, and then the barley will actually convert the starch into sugar, and they can ferment it and make the liquor out of it. So bourbon has no sugar in it whatsoever. It's the sugar's derived from the grain. So that's the only difference between moonshine and bourbon. But moonshine will come off the still like at 160, and we'll take it down like 115 to 125 to put it in a barrel. Moonshine doesn't have any regulations. It'll actually start coming off the steel at like 180 proof. But most people, we take it down to 100 proof, because anytime with moonshine you go over 105 or 104 proof, you're not tasting nothing but pure alcohol. There's no flavor on the back end of it. So
I wouldn't know. It burns too bad to know what the back end tastes like.
well, the best thing to do with any kind of liquor is don't take a college shot. Put a little bit on your tongue at first and roll it around, and that prickly feeling you feel, your taste buds open it up, and then take your second drink, and you really get the true flavor of it after that.
I was very sad. I don't know if I want my taste buds to open up. I just want it to come down.
If you do it like a college shot, it's gonna be that you're going to do that woohoo, that
Yeah.
that,
Something like that.
Then
Yeah,
she went to the bar again.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I try to tell everybody all the time. I was like, forget college. I was like,
Yeah.
figure how to do it. And then when they roll it around, especially with bourbon, they'll roll it around their mouth. The guy that's over Jim Beam, he's really known for it. It's called the Kentucky Chew, and they'll roll it around their mouth, and it's almost like they're chewing it. And then they'll swallow it after that, so they hit all their taste buds to get the different flavors in their mouth.
So that's what I was going to ask you, because we've learned with bourbon that you smell and the look and then the taste, and like you said, they swirl it around their mouth. Some of them even spit it out; they won't even swallow them. It's just
I've never met one person that's done that.
there are a couple around here that will swirl it in their mouth and then spit it and go on to the next one. But so do you taste moonshine the same way with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been to an actual tasting in like a moonshine distillery like I have the bourbon.
Most of it, it's the same thing, and it's just like that with wine too. We'll do the tastings, everything, but we'll do the moonshine first in the tasting, because it's kind of like a palate cleanser, and it opens up those taste buds and everything else. And then we'll move to the aged liquors, which are brown. All liquor's clear until you do something to it, and so the moonshine's clear. You put it in a barrel, let it age, it turns brown. So there's no, and then with bourbon, you can't put anything in it. It has to be all natural. It has to be white oak tree for the barrel. It has to be corn, barley, rye, or wheat. And it has to be 51% corn. It has to be made in the United States. It can't be made anywhere else. And it can't be lower than 80 proof and no higher than 125. So that's the rules they set for you with it. And now with the flavored stuff, it's usually with the moonshine. And I'm not saying it to be mean, but if somebody hands me a jar or something like that and it's got fruit in it with moonshine, I'm like, what are you trying to hide? You know what I mean? Because they're trying to get rid of some kind of flavor or something like that. But there's also ones like the apple pie and stuff like that. It actually really is good. It suits to a lot of other people's flavors and tastes. So,
I actually have apple pie in my fridge at home.
The apple pie moonshine.
Yes. I love apple pie moonshine.
I like the apple pie
I
moonshine.
do. I'm guilty as charged of that one. You said something ago that has me so curious.
What's that?
You said that you all are going to store barrels in a cave.
That's the other place that it's an old coal mine over there. It's called Brothers Wright Distilling, and they're going to put 3 years above ground in the rick houses. And I know you all know what rick houses are. They're everywhere in Barstown. And then they're going to, after that, they'll take them and put them underground for 3 years. And the way it's an old mine, it was horse and buggy, so the railroad tracks are still in there in the mine where they used to pull the coal out with the horse and buggy. So they put the barrels on the railroad tracks and they can roll them back into the mines, and they can mess with the barometric pressure with the wood, like make it to where it goes down. Your ears will scream, and it'll drive that bourbon into the wood, and then they can let off the barometric pressure, and then the bourbon will actually come out of the wood. They can adjust the temperature. If it's 30 degrees outside.
That's what I was curious about.
They can jack up the temperature to 80 inside there and then drop it right back down again. And those barrels will expand and contract, pulling that liquor into the wood and getting that nice brown red flavor to it. And then also the charcoal and the char, it mellows it out.
Okay, I was wondering because I know with the above ground, they'll put them up higher for the heat for the barrels and then lower for the cool. So I was wondering, so that answered my question then. I was wondering where the flavoring was going to come in, how you were going to heat it, cool it, because, you know, underground.
The higher the barrel in the air, the faster it ages. Your Pappies, your high-end big bottles, they usually age in the middle of the distillery because it doesn't have the rick house because it doesn't have that much of a temperature fluctuation, and you don't lose what they call the angel share. Every year a barrel will burp as it's expanding and contracting, and that's that black stuff that's everywhere in Bardstown. And you know what I'm talking about?
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the bourbon fungus, that's what that is. And then they take it and as they burp, they'll lose about 3% a year. So if you age a barrel for 10 years, 30% of it's going to be gone when you harvest it. So, and they call that the angel share. And then Jim Beam has a process where they actually steam the barrels and get it out of the wood, and they call it the devil's cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The devil's cut's pretty popular around here too.
Mm-hmm.
And they've mastered that. You know, that process. There's not a lot of people that do the devil's cut process. We send all of our barrels mostly to honey and maple syrup people in West Virginia because they'll age their honey and their maple syrup in the barrels, and they'll sell little bottles of it where it's been aged 6 months in it, and people will pay $14 or $15 for like an airplane bottle of maple syrup. I mean, and they put it in their coffees, and they'll actually make cocktails out of it. They'll make hot maple toddies and stuff like that.
So what got you interested in doing all this?
My aunt and uncle were huge wine drinkers, and I went to Liquor Barn, and we had a lot of fruit up here on the farm, like apples and blackberries and stuff like that. And I said, "Here, make wine for Christmas." Well, 2 years later, on Christmas Eve, she handed it back to me, still in the package. She said, "We don't want to make it. You make it for us." So I fermented and made the wine, and it actually turned out pretty good. But me and my wife realized we don't like wine. So we took the wine and started distilling it and make brandy out of it, because that's all brandy is distilled wine. And then, of course, we're in Kentucky, and we got some corn. We started doing that, and somebody got us a barrel. And from like 2008 until 2015, we just played and experimented with it. And then we just got the wild hair on Super Bowl Sunday. And we said, let's do this. And we ended up going and get a small business loan, and we took off with it after that.
And now look at you, because I mean, you're pretty much everywhere now.
Yeah, we're in over 52 liquor stores in Kentucky right now. And then we do online sales. I think we're in 14 states on online sales. And then we also have the point of sale place here with the tasting room, which has been really successful. We've only had it open since July.
So do you have any plans on adding wine to your product?
No, I don't think I will.
Because me and Kristen just realized too that we love wine.
Oh, I know I love wine.
Now, if you like fruity wine, like not like the real dry wines and stuff, there's a wine in Eastern Kentucky. I've helped them out some and everything, and it's called Savage Farm Winery. And it's like $14 a bottle, and they make like blueberry lemon wine. They make like strawberry rhubarb wine. They make different ones like that. So if you like sweet wines with that, you see it at the liquor store, it's worth getting and trying. It's really good.
I like the sweets. I'm not a dry person. Maybe that's why I don't like bourbon.
You're definitely a sweet person.
Yeah, I like sweet.
Yeah, it's they make it all naturally.
Thank you.
I missed that.
But they have a really good selection of stuff that you wouldn't dream of. That they do combinations. The blueberry lemon was a really good one, and I don't like wine at all. And then they have a blackberry wine that's out of this world. The blackberry wine, it's like eating blackberry jelly almost. It's so sweet.
Oh wow!
I'm just gonna have to go to Forest Edge and get you a bottle of wine. That's like my favorite winery ever. And anybody that doesn't like wine, like my husband's not a wine drinker, there is a bottle there. It's like a bourbon infused wine.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. There's one called Thousand Oaks, I think, and then there's one, and I can't remember what the brand is. It's got an elephant on the front of it, and they age. I think they're out of Louisville, and they age in Evan Williams barrels, but they do the dry reds. They don't do the like the sweet wines.
I think this one's called like Rum Runner or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's with Forest Edge, and it's got the bourbon like taste to it.
Yep.
So he likes that one. He's not a sweet wine drinker. But he will drink that one with me just because if I want to go to Forest Edge, I join the wine club just to go there, and he'll go to drink that. But they also have some of their dessert wines and stuff that are really good to cook with.
That's more me right there, dessert wine, but I can't. Yeah, it's the worst hangover. Wine is the worst hangover it is.
It doesn't give me headaches.
The headache is horrible.
Yes, I agree. I can't handle the headache.
Ridge Runner.
Yeah.
I said Rum Runner, Ridge Runner. Justin said Ridge Runner.
Oh,
He knows what it's called. I don't drink it. Sorry, my husband Justin, he said it was called Ridge Runner. I said Rum Runner. Did you say you all are getting into rum?
Yeah, we're doing a Prohibition style run. It's like back when Prohibition kicked in, they had to hide their ingredients and everything. Well, they were bringing a lot of molasses from the Caribbean up to New England area, and it's a really simple recipe. It's just molasses, water, and yeast, and it makes a really sweet distillate. And then you age it, and usually most of them do about 2 years. We're going to do ours 4. And we're doing it in a really super dark char barrel. But we've been distilling it here lately. We're distilling our last load tonight, probably. And it smells like butterscotch and buttercream frosting. That's what it smells like. And
no, I like rum.
To me, rum is more of like the sissy drink. Because rum, to me, I have not found one that you can't just drink straight.
I love rum.
Like they're just a lighter taste.
Next time you go to the liquor store, there's one. It's in a bottle, and it's got a skull and crossbones on the front. And it's called Bamboo. And Bamboo.
I trust you.
Bamboo rum, and get and get it. And you get the extra old or just the regular, and it's only 70 proof. And you can pour it over ice with a twist, and it's out of this world good.
Okay, well, when you said skull and crossbones, I'm saying like this dude makes moonshine. Like it's not going to end well for me. He's going to prove me wrong.
No, this stuff's really, really, really good. It's oaky, it's spicy. It's got hints of like pineapple and orange in it, and it's a really good bourbon. And it's very good priced. It's usually $28 to $30, so it's not bad at all.
Well, and it's hard to because when you say you get what you pay for, that's so not true in Kentucky as far as bourbons and things. Because I have seen some extremely good, cheaper tasting things than you'll pay a crazy dollar amount for something that's
not good.
Awful.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
Like Heaven Hill had a thing called Bottled and Bond, and you could buy it for $9 to $10 a bottle until about 2 years ago, and everybody loved it. Everybody went nuts over it, and Heaven Hill caught on. Well, they took it off the market. Well, they put it back on the market this year. Now it's $39 a bottle. And the bottle.
Which Heaven Hill has always been kind of cheaper. Like when we grew up, if you were going to get drunk, Heaven Hill vodka, that was what.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
if it's in a plastic jug, stay away from it.
Exactly. I don't know why in the world people think that stuff's good. I said, there's not enough cranberry juice in this world to make me want to drink Heaven Hill.
Well, I mean, it's cheaper, like you said. It was a cheaper.
But it burns like moonshine, and it doesn't taste good.
But their Bottled and Bond is out of this world. It's really good, and they make Elijah Craig too. He's supposedly the father of bourbon. He's the one that started the first barrel because he was trying to get the fish smell out of a barrel because he was cheap, and he burnt the barrel to put his liquor in, and he put his liquor in it, and by the time it got to New Orleans, it had turned brown and mellowed out, and that's how bourbon exploded right there.
Oh wow!
I think I knew that they had made Elijah Craig.
I knew they made Elijah Craig, but I didn't know that's how it went down.
Yeah. I think I looked that up one time because when we worked at Jim Beam and we had like a Knob Creek double oak tasting, it was pretty good. For not a bourbon drinker, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how like back in the day they would hide their ingredients and stuff when they would make stuff, and the Prohibition times and everything.
How could you hide the ingredients?
Our bar is almost 100 years old, and it has a basement and tunnels under it. that during that time, I'm almost positive that they did some
Oh, they probably had drop shells.
liquor
They had
out
the
of
liquor on
it.
the shelves, and then when the revenue guy would come to the door, they pull a string, and the bottom of the shelf would drop, and all the liquor would go down the basement and bust in the floor, and it would just be people playing cards and smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, that's
All those
kind of
busted
like what our
bottles.
bar is now.
Yeah, so,
Smoking cigarettes.
There's a ton of busted bottles underneath the
Uh-huh.
bar.
Well, and see, there's so many tunnels underneath our place because it actually also used to be part of the Underground Railroad.
mhm.
But the man who had bought it from the original owners, he bought it right during, or what did we figure out, right before Prohibition ended.
There was a lot to
Yeah,
it.
there was so much history there with the building that we have. So I bet you anything that they stored and hid
I'm sure.
stuff.
I guarantee it. I guarantee they did. I mean, a lot of them would put the vent where the steam would come out through their chimney in their house. So the steam, when it was coming out of the chimney, it just looked like smoke coming out of the chimney when they would do the steam and the smell. But 90% of your neighbors didn't care because they were your customers. So
Mhm.
nobody was going to tell on you.
Yeah,
They
they just
was
left it.
Yeah.
That's
They-
because I mean, some of the tunnels underneath there is hardly wide enough for you to turn sideways and
Mhm.
go down.
I wonder if that was like for storage.
Probably.
purposes.
It probably was. I mean, it probably was back then. And if it wasn't on their blueprints of their building, when the tax people would come in, they didn't know it was there. They wouldn't check it.
They wouldn't check it. Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's probably where it was from. So
Well, the tunnels go all through our town, like all around underneath our town.
maybe you need to start a place called Tunnel Bourbon and start aging your bourbon underground and everything like that underneath that, and you can have your own brand for your bar.
If I could do vodka that way, I'm in.
No, we don't. That's one thing we don't do vodka. But the Fuel the Feud, you probably like it because it's actually rye based, and 90% of your vodkas are made out of rye, so it's got a really big. That's why it's so good with Bloody Marys.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
probably like that.
I want to get a hold of a bottle of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, we both said we're not very big bourbon drinkers, but I do like the vodka. I love the rum, so I'm excited about trying your all's rum now too.
Just when your distributor comes in, the Heritage, just tell them you want a sample of the Fuel the Feud, and they'll bring it to you. And just tell them Josh said to do it, and they'll bring you a sample of the stuff and everything else.
Yeah, because the moonshine goes really, really good in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, because
It
it's
goes really
good
good.
mixed.
Yeah.
I mean, I can mix anything. It's just straight
just
shooting that stuff.
gave it to her straight and was like,
And didn't
"Here."
tell me. In my defense, I didn't know what I was taking a shot of.
Well, you could be like me. I had a few drinks with my father about a year ago, and I didn't tell him it was 119 proof, and he realized it when he stood up.
Ooh,
Nice.
but he went down real quick after he stood up.
Oh, we got a giggle out of it.
I guarantee it. Well, we got a big giggle at a Halloween party night because we don't really all drink.
No.
And my poor husband had to take her home, and there was a big deer.
Yeah, he almost hit a deer in the road.
Yeah, it was and it was a big duck. It was a buck.
It was a
And I
buck.
always
She
told
kept
Greg,
calling
I
it a
said
duck.
duck.
Nobody around, none of the cops or anything around here know me as my name. They just know me as the Bourbon Man. And about a year ago, I was taking 40 cases of bourbon to Louisville, and I had it stacked up in my truck. And I got about 3 miles from my house, and blue lights were everywhere around me. And on the intercom, I heard, "Please place 4 bottles of bourbon on the ground and drive away."
I'd have been like 5, and I'm
My wife called me and she was like, "Are you at Louisville yet?" And I was like, "No, I'm just at Staggerville." And she's like, "You left 4 hours ago." I said, "Well, I had to stop and talk to the cops."
They seen me and wanted to say hi.
Yeah.
Very friendly like. That would have made me had a heart attack even if I wasn't doing something wrong.
Oh, it scared me to death. It scared me to death. And they were in the boxes had, moonshine and bourbon on the boxes. And so they were taking pictures with it because they said this is the closest they'll ever get to an alcohol bust. And so, I had all the paperwork and everything, but they were, yeah. So, but they see me now, and I'll go through a roadblock or whatever. They just flag me on. They're like, "It's good. It's the bourbon guy. Let him."
So, have you been to Bardstown? Have you ever been to Bardstown?
Yes, my sister actually. I had a surgery back in 2016, and after I got recuperated from the surgery, she took me on a tour down there, and it was wonderful. We went to that bakery that everybody goes to with downtown, and we did all the restaurants. And then there was this little country place. There was a pizza place, like a brick oven pizza place, we went to, and then there was this little restaurant we went to, and it was kind of like a Cracker Barrel, but they had pieces of pie that were like this tall. I mean,
I bet it was Mamie's.
Yeah, and we ate there for like 2 nights straight, and then yeah, it was really, really nice. We had a really good time down there, and had a really good time at Heaven Hill. They found out that we had a distillery, and they took us behind the scenes and let us try some of their old barrels and everything. And it was
That's cool.
9:30 in the morning, and we hadn't eaten breakfast or anything, and we were like, "Yeah, we're gonna hang out here for an hour or two before we go anywhere else."
For breakfast, that's great.
Hey, breakfast of a champion.
Well, listen, if you're ever back in this way, come down to Long Branch and hang out with us. There's actually a distillery not too far from us, Log Still Distillery.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll bring you guys some little sample pack next time I'm down.
That's awesome.
We're definitely going to have to plan a trip soon. We've been nose to the grindstone for a while, so I want to keep my happy wife, happy life. You know.
Well, and Bardstown's always the best place to go and relax, especially.
And we're actually in New Haven.
Yeah,
too,
this is in New Haven, which New Haven's a little bit more like way slower than Bardstown. It's just far enough out of Bardstown to not have the Bardstown life, but it's close enough to everything. I think it's like
that you can
15-minute drive from here.
The Bardstown life.
As long as I have a bottle of bourbon and a cigar and a rocking chair, that's all I care about.
Oh, we have it all. Then we got you.
Sounds about right.
So listen, where can they find if they wanted to order online or anything? So where can people find
you? Can go, as long as you live in a wet area code, zip code, or anything, I can ship it to you at the in Kentucky. There's 14 other states, and they're weird states. It's like DC, Florida, Washington State. There's a lot of states that won't accept distilled spirits, but anywhere in Kentucky, I can send it to you. If it says 0 on the website, you can call the main number, which is 606-422-4947. And more than likely, we just haven't had time to update the website, and we can do it that way for you too. So, and we can ship it. We ship UPS, and a lot of these places like Advanced Auto Parts or Home Depot and everything, they have lockers now, and you can have them ship, even if you don't live in a wet place, you can have it delivered to that locker, and then after work you can go to the locker and just pick it up out of the locker.
Oh wow, that's cool.
We ship a lot to Dry Ridge, Kentucky, Advanced Auto Parts, and people just they go in and it has a key code for them. They open them up and their bottle's sitting in the locker from UPS, and they can just pick it up after work.
That's really cool.
And then, like I said, we can ship, as long as you're in a wet area, we can ship it right to your front door.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on. We do have the contact information out here. It's Pauley Hollow Distillery at yahoo.com, or you can go to their website at Pauley Hollow Distillery LLC. And that's where he's talking about. You can place the order, the phone number, and everything's on there. We really appreciate you coming on today, Josh, and talking to us. Thank you so much.
No problem. You guys have a blessed day. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And you all just learned about some distilling of moonshine right here on Long Branch Talks. That was pretty interesting. A little bit different from the bourbon, but still interesting nonetheless. And that's in southeastern Kentucky. The Hatfield and McCoy's trail is over there. So if you all are ever in that area, make sure you stop in Pauley Hollow or tell them Amber and Kristen sent you. And as always, guys, drink responsibly, but tip recklessly.
Thank you so much.